All right, y'all, welcome back to the channel. This is Lou Insights again, and this video is over a topic that I've seen growing over the years, over the last few years. Kind of back and forth, men and women back and forth, kind of like a gender war or something. It ain't that serious though, but it's serious enough, and you see it on Facebook, you see it on YouTube, you see it on Instagram. You know, just it's like an argument, an argument right now between men and women, and it's I want to say minority community mostly, but really I'm starting to see that this is across the board, and and what I think one of the main issues is before I get into the specific reasons I've listed, the main issues are that with the feminist push, which I think genuinely started out to be something positive for women, and they needed just for women to have certain human rights. Um, but I think there was a lack of foresight of what consequences may come from those social changes. So for example, if your woman is able to go outside and make just as much money as the man, then that does change the dynamic within the household. We human. It does. It shouldn't a lot of times if the love is there, but it does. It changes the dynamics with how children are raised. Because um, now you need daycare centers more than ever. You know, so a lot of unforeseen circumstances I've noticed that just comes along when certain very critical laws are passed and enacted. There's some circumstances and consequences that are unforeseen, and society's left to deal with it. One of the symptoms of this, in my opinion, has been recent. I want to say modern men, but I just want to say the younger men, kind of like really me in my 30s and men under and possibly over my age, are why they are so reluctant to get married nowadays versus back in the day. And so as I went through my thinking about this, man, my list grew and grew. And I was keeping real with you. I had to literally make a little list to remind myself of the main reasons as a man, speaking from a man's perspective, that we have become so apprehensive and skeptical about marriage. All right, so the first thing that comes to mind is the divorce laws. So that's one consequence. I think that was there was a lack of foresight when a lot of the feminist laws were made. When you change when you change the dynamic of the household so with such a striking blow, it's going to obviously have to be coupled with a change in certain divorce laws. Okay, if the woman is able to make the same, if not more, than a man as far as money, then the divorce laws dealing with assets, how you split up assets, they also need to be adjusted because it's not right for let's for an example. So let's say you have a man making 70K and a woman making 50K, and but during the divorce process, he still loses the majority of his assets, and that just doesn't make sense when both parties are making money on a similar level. So those divorce laws dealing with the asset split, um, those are those are laws that should have been looked at, while during or after their certain feminist laws were enacted. And again, I'm not saying the feminist movement original agenda was bad at all. I feel I have daughters. I would like for them to have regular human rights like everybody else. Um, but what has happened is there's been, I think, people that have jumped on the bandwagon of it just for benefiting themselves only. Um, so yeah, in my opinion, I think the only women that should be able to be raking in or getting majority of assets in a divorce, in my opinion, should be the woman who truly worked as a stay-at-home wife to raise the children. Like she actually had children in the within the marriage, and she raised them. She stayed home. She sacrificed her career to make sure that happened, and the man paid most of the bills. So yeah, how is she supposed to go out and survive after a divorce? She hasn't been able to build a career or anything. So that type of thing is understandable. But when you're talking about women that were able to make their own money and they still get the majority of the man's assets, and a lot of time the man is a homeless, got to go live with a family member during the process, man, that's ridiculous. All right, just a lot of times I try to explain to women, hey, just think about it if it was your son or your brother or a beloved family member, how you would like him to be treated. Because that's what we are, y'all. We just a reflection of the men in your family that you love, that love you. So let me get into my little list though here. So initially, the problem, a big reason why men are hesitant to get married nowadays is divorce laws. Okay, they haven't changed with the times, um, and I just explained a lot of that. So another one is men are very logical. That means we often, not all men are good at math, but we often are mathematical thinkers anyway. And if you look at the stats, y'all, 50% of all marriages in America end in divorce. So when you're getting a marriage, a lot of women they'll respond to me, and I'm talking about in person, like friends of mine that are women. They'll instantly respond when I bring up a fact like that. That well, you shouldn't be thinking that way before you get married. That you're already thinking that things will go wrong and you'll get a divorce. And once again, I have to remind them that men, we have to think in these terms. We have to be prepared for any situation. We have to be prepared for the worst. So any situation, especially dealing with family and marriage, is the corner, of building of a family. You got to weigh the consequences, or you got to weigh all outcomes. All right, my brother always tell me always be expecting of the unexpected. So if it happens, you're not surprised. And this one thing falls in that category. Okay, so we can be in love and all that and do our thing, but you got to remember, everybody is human, and these numbers don't lie. 50% of all marriages in America end in divorce. That's a very large number. It's like flipping a coin whether your marriage gonna make it, gonna last or not. The next staggering stat that I know a lot of women that may come across this video, you probably know these type of things, but 70% of all divorces are initiated by women. So of the 50% of divorces that are going to happen, 70% of them are initiated by women. All right. Now tell me, why would a man be so ready to rush into a situation um, like that, where there's a 50% chance the marriage won't work, and then on top of that, most most divorces are initiated by women. So it's like you don't even have any power over it. All right, which brings me to other items on my list. A lot of times a woman can cheat and initiate, she can cheat, still initiate the divorce and leave with most of his assets. Now again, how is that fair? You cheat, you the one broke your vows, and just because you file for divorce, you still get you keep your assets, and you get that man's assets for for who knows how long. I'd have to look into more data to figure that out. Um, and this next thing is another issue I never hear people bring up, but we know women communicate a lot about their relationships, good or bad, good, bad, or indifferent. You women, it's almost like in your nature to talk about those things with other women and other people in general, which is not always the best because everybody don't need to be in your business. All right, but I'm gonna tell you from a man's point of view, men hear 90% of marriage stories that we hear are horror stories. So just imagine if all you heard about marriage mostly was negativity. That would create a lot of apprehension about you getting married. You know what I'm saying? That's just a human nature. You have to think about self preservation, because if you ain't good, ain't nobody good. At least the people you taking care of. So when you talking about what our perception of marriage is, And we love women. A lot of men love women. This is why they don't, and it's to their detriment sometimes, because they could be in love with the wrong woman and she can, ruin his life financially at least. So if we hear about horror stories a lot, then you gotta expect that men are gonna be apprehensive. You would be too. A lot of things that you hear horror stories about when it comes to men causes the same reaction with you guys. If you heard horror story, I'm just hypothetically like all the stories that people tell you, married people tell you. If majority of those stories were always negative and were always making the man seem like a monster, like in most marriages, if you hear these stories that men kind of rape their wives sometimes, or men are abusive, or and of course none of this stuff is true. What I'm listing right now, I'm using it as hypothetical. But if that's all you heard growing up as a young woman, you'd be very apprehensive about marriage. And this is what men go through that a lot of women don't know. A lot of stories that we hear about marriage, we rarely see a man light up and be glowing and beaming when he's talking about his marriage. Maybe when the marriage first happens, but once that honeymoon phase is over, boy, we get the horror stories. Which leads me to my next thing. And part of that horror story sometimes is we hear a lot of stories about wives withholding sex. All right. Now, we ain't talking about for a week, a month, not even a month, but we talking about their stories of wives withholding sex for years. All right. Depending on your marriage style, everybody's not the same, but some people feel like a week is too much. All right. More disciplined people that don't operate off sexuality or sexual energy that much, they can maybe go, 3 weeks before they start to feel that urge or whatever. But withholding sex within the marriage period, we hear about that a lot. We always hear men make little jokes like, oh, okay, and so time to get married, that means time to prepare for less sex. So that would definitely make a woman apprehensive, if she's used to a certain treatment. And we're not going to use sex because we know sex is different between men and women, at least the perception of it is. But say if this man treated you to, um, he paid your car note, he basically bought you a car, paid your car note, your insurance. Uh, he made sure you had extra money to spend and go out with your girls if you want to or whatever. And then once y'all get married, all that stop. All right, you would be very, if this is all you heard, these type of stories, you'd be very apprehensive, ladies. So I'm just giving you the thought process from the other side, y'all, because if we trying to fix these issues in our community, it's got to be communication and understanding from both sides and what they coming from. So yeah, we hear about the withholding sex horror stories. Um, and to be honest, my next item on the list, a woman can choose at any moment's notice to end the marriage. And the way the divorce laws are set up now, basically she's almost guaranteed to get full custody, to keep all her own assets and at least half of the man's assets and future earnings. So we talking about child support and alimony. And a lot of women are have been vindictive enough to not even to fight against him even being able to see his children. So he's paying child support, can't even see his kids, and he paying alimony. That means he's still supporting your lifestyle as a grown person. Now, why would a man be willing to rush into a situation like that? I mean, you just got to use common sense on this. This is why a lot of men nowadays are reluctant, so reluctant to get married. Even the ones that do get married, there's still some reluctance there because what it comes down to is trust, which we don't have a lot of in the human population right now. Man, it's a lot of distrustfulness, which is warranted because people been moving. People been moving different. Man, this we way off track as far as what God's instructions were for us. So that creates a level of mistrust, which also creates apprehension. Like how I can't trust this person 1,000%. So how am I supposed to put so much of a risk on this. All right, especially if that man has other children that he had beforehand, and then he gets married, and a divorce happens, and when that alimony is taken out of your check and child support from your current marriage that you know current divorced marriage, that's taking food and clothing out of the mouths of his previous children. So a man has to think about this stuff seriously. You know, it ain't just all bells and whistles and rainbows and sunshine when it comes to marriage for men. Yeah, all right, because we've heard the stories. We know how the system is kind of set up against men. The system is out of date, really. It's not. It's out of date with the times. All right. So she can leave at any moment's notice and take basically all of your stuff, including your children. All right, should most likely get full custody, and the man often is destroyed financially for a while. A lot of men have to end up going living with roommates or with family members until you know they're able to make the financial adjustments they need in their life. You know, aka get a new job, i.e. get a new job, get several more streams of income um, before he can even save up to go and buy himself a home or rent a residence, you know, because I forgot to mention this, women most times get the home, you know. So you talking about you almost guaranteed to get the children, the home, child support, and alimony. And we talking about for decades after the marriage has ended. Now tell me how in the world can that sound attractive to a man? How does that situation how can that be spun as attractive to a man? So he could love you, he could love your draws off, baby, but he's also got to be a man and think about his own well being. You know, he got to be a human being, not just a man, and think about his own well being in the process. And so this is also why, you know, a lot of men have apprehension when it comes to marriage. And I'm not saying men don't want marriage; men want marriage, but with today's divorce laws you have to step back and really take your time and deal with that apprehension because it's there for a reason. And overall, the most what this boils down to, the financial risk isn't adding up to the reward. Now I know that there are great wives out there that do great things. They do more than clean and cook. You know, they're nurturers. They speak life into their man. They have a sense of humor. They know how to have fun. They know how to be classy, especially when out and about. They know how to, you know, sexually please their man and actually are delighted in pleasing them. I know it's a lot of good wives out there. But what it all boils down to for a man's decision to get married is the financial risk. We don't know if it's worth the reward, which brings us back to the trust issue. You got to trust that this woman, if anything were to go wrong, that she wouldn't just be so vindictive and just try to ruin you because we've seen so many women do it. We've seen so many stories. All right. And it's easy to say, well, you can't look at other people's situation and base that on the decisions you make for your own situation. And my response to that is that's human nature to do that. Okay, if I see a guy go across the street and get hit by a car, and then the next day I see the same thing happen, and I'm probably going to be cautious how I cross that street, or I may avoid crossing that street at all. You know, so what happens to other people does, and it should. You should learn from other people's situations, so you don't always have to go and learn the hard way. So yeah, you shouldn't base everything that you decide to do off of other people's experiences, but you definitely have to pay attention to what's going on around you. All right, because I've experienced it. I haven't been married or divorced yet, but I've had close acquaintances and friends that I see go through it, and majority of the time, it's not good for the man. All right, so yeah, the reason why men today are being way more apprehensive about marriage, ladies, it all comes down to the financial risk because he has to worry, he has to be cognizant of his own well-being, his own life, as any human should. So yeah, I just wanted to try to bring a little understanding to the women, speaking from a man's point of view and what we're putting on the line when we get married. We love y'all. I know a lot of black men that love our black women. Okay, a lot of black men may lust after the Hispanic or the white woman or, mixed girls. All right. Lust. But as far as love, genuine love, we know our sisters is the ones that got that for us, for sure. Now, the other ones may have that too, but for sure, we know our sisters got us. And so, really, to settle down with and to be with, most black men would want to choose a black woman, a good black woman, a good-hearted, warm-hearted, just sweet, you know, not a pushover, but just a sweet spirit black, a black woman with a sweet spirit, man. That's unbeatable. Of course, we want you to look good and things like that. That's just a man's nature, but nothing beats that, that black woman's heart that's so sweet and faithful and willing to help, just that spirit, man. We know we love y'all, and we're hoping that we can get a lot of, more young ladies to be on that wave. So we need y'all's, our elder women, we need y'all's help in this too, to teach the younger women that we do need each other. All right, we do need to build our community, and we can't do that without creating family units with each other. All right, but again, this is just a video explaining from a man's point of view all the things that we have to consider before marriage, which causes us to have, understandable amount of apprehension when it comes to marriage. All right, y'all. You know what it is. I love y'all. Always, y'all. Love God. Love creation. Um, love yourself. And yeah, God bless y'all. And I'll holler at y'all soon. All right. Peace.